The government's just admitted that they've been unlawfully, unjustly enriching themselves for people's money. You know, we use the word outrage a lot, but this is pretty bloody outrageous what the government's done. $721 million is their first refund. $721 million to 377,000 people. This is not another day at the office, and it's caused a lot of hardship to ordinary people who are vulnerable.
$721 million. I mean, could it get higher than that?
Probably. I mean, the court action hasn't resolved yet. And one of the, for example, one of the reasons why it might get higher is, did you know, Peter, that if you owed the government money at a certain point, if you haven't paid the debt, they charge you a general interest charge of 7.5%. On the theory that you've got the government's money and so they've lost the use of it, so you have to pay interest penalties. But the government's held people's money for up to 4.5 years and they haven't said anything about the interest charge that they should recompense people with. So that's just one example of how this is going to go higher, I suspect.
Christian Porter said that he can't apologise because of the litigation that's taking place at the moment. Do you accept that?
No, they're just weasel words. Listen, he says that he'll probably say, on legal grounds, if I say sorry, that's the admission of some wrongdoing. Well, I don't know what he thinks paying back $721 million is. I don't know what he thinks that he was doing when he said yesterday to David Spears, yes, it is unlawful. Apology would show empathy. Apology would show that this is a problem. I mean, the real challenge in all of this is not just what's already been done wrong, but there's 2.5 million plus people now receiving government payments. How do we know the government's learned anything from their unjust enrichment and unlawful conduct over the last 4.5 years? A lot of other people should be worried.
Well, I mean, he also says that many governments over the years have used average data. Is it time to come up with a new system? Do you still back that system?
Well, again, I think the government minister was being a bit selective. When there was data averaging in the past, what would happen is that would raise a red flag. Oh, look, person A says they've earned this, but the computer says maybe they've earned a bit more. But then what you would do is you would have a human checker. Someone in the Department of Human Service would go and check with the employer to check if the person was, benefits were all appropriate. This government, not anyone else, not the man in the moon, not someone else, it was this government who took out the human oversight. And they announced in their 2016 budget how they were going to ramp up compliance against welfare cheats on steroids. Always good for a headline, we're going to stop the welfare cheats. Well, no one wants to see someone getting money they're not entitled to. But in this case, the people who were cheating were the government. They were getting $720 million they weren't entitled to.
The government, has also been accused in the past of a big underspend when it comes to the NDIS. Do you think this will mean that won't change because of this extra $1 billion or whatever it ends up being that the government will have to pay back because of Robodebt?
Well, I understand the question, but to be clear, what the government's doing is they're paying back money they weren't entitled to. So this is money they weren't entitled to, which they've taken off ordinary people. And then after 4.5 years, there's been a lot of community campaigning, but this class action, the government was afraid they'd be in court and look stupid for unlawful conduct. Now they've paid it back. But this isn't taxpayer money. This is money which was originally other people's, which this government took. In terms of the NDIS underspend, I'm concerned that the government will try and rob the accounts, make NDIS harder for people to access. But I think that's a more general concern. In this matter, this is just about the government's returning what was never theirs to begin with.
OK. Just finally, today, a multi-billion-dollar stimulus package. I know this is a bit of a sidestep here, but a stimulus package on its way for the construction industry. And what it involves, amongst other things, is direct cash grants for home renos, amongst some other things. What are your thoughts on this rescue package for tradies?
Well, at one level, it's good to see plans being put in place to stimulate the economy. I'm worried that around September construction's going to fall off a cliff. So that's good, and Labor has been calling for this. Jason Clare and Anthony Albanese were out on the weekend calling for some of this. Just one note of caution with the home reno package. If we don't know all the details, so with that caveat, but one thing I've found in the past is if you offer a free grant for the price of, say, $5,000, then normally what happens is the cost of whatever you're providing the grant for goes up by $5,000. So what I don't want to see is a system that gets rorted where, you know, the analogy is, you know, if you get a grant for a car, the price of cars goes up by the amount of the grant and it doesn't change anything. Still, let's wait and see. It's just something to be on our guard about.